Hello there, Algebra 2A, and welcome to Lesson 3.2. Here are your notes and examples for today. Our essential question is, how do you solve a system of equations using substitution? Using substitution, okay? Last lesson we looked at graphing. So graphing is one method to solve a system of equations. Another method is the substitution method. And really it's not too crazy. So here, like number one, is how we are going to start seeing some problems. We have a system of equations, which is really just two equations at once. And the first one is y equals negative 2x plus 4. And the second one is negative x plus 2y equals 18. So we can solve this in a few ways, but we're going to focus on the substitution method today. The substitution method, what is useful about it is, let's notice how this y is solved for in terms of x. Well, if that's the case, so see how that y is already solved for? All you could do is you can pop it in to y in the second equation. We can substitute it in there. So what that's going to make the second equation, so if we label these equation 1 and equation 2, it's going to make the second equation negative x plus 2. I'm going to substitute that y in there, and that's going to be this whole piece. And then equals 18. So everything else is the same. I just substituted it in there. Now, here's where your solving skills come into play. So you're going to want to distribute the 2. So negative 4x plus 8. And just bring everything else down that you had before. And we are going to solve for x, so combine any like terms that you have. So negative 5x. I'm going to subtract the 8 from the other side, so equals 10, and then divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5, and you get x is equal to negative 2. So be careful, it's a negative 2. Now that's great, but you're not done yet. I know it's tough. You also need to find y. So you can now just go back to even the first equation, and we're going to solve for y. We still need to know what that is. So y equals, well, if we substitute x in for x there, we know that y then is negative 2 times negative 2 plus 4. So this negative 2 is the one I solved for. And we get positive 4 plus 4 equals y, or y equals 8. Hopefully you remember doing stuff like this before. The formal answer then is negative 2, comma 8. That is where, if you graph them, they would intersect one another. So substitution method. Okay. Number 2. So number 2 is really about the same idea, only this time the second equation is already solved for. So what we can do is we can just substitute y in for y up top. So the new equation from above would be negative 8 times x minus 3 times negative 6x minus 10 equals 20. If you want to use some different colors and highlighters, please do so, okay? Make it fun for yourself. I know, math and fun, how do those things go together? But make it so you understand the stuff and you're able to work through the problems. Combine like terms, you always have to do that. Negative 8 and 18 is 10. Subtract the 30, so that's negative 10. And divide by 10, and negative 10 over 10 is negative 1. Now, what do we do from here? We're not done yet. We still need to find y. So we're going to then substitute back into, you can do the y equals equation. So we know now that y equals -6 times -1 minus 10. Again, the -1 is the one we solve for. So y is equal to 6 minus 10, or -4. So -4 is the y, and you have the coordinate point, -1, -4. And that's about it. Okay? -1, -4. So they might look a little different. Something like 3 here. They're both solved for. How did we do there? Well, it's kind of a sneaky thing to do here. So they're both solved for. What that means is if y is this here and y is that there, well, we can just set them equal to one another. So if they're both solved for y, we could just say, well, -8x minus 4, if essentially that is y, it must also be equal to 4x minus 4, because that's also y. And we just need to solve by getting x to one side. So I will choose to add the 8x. That'll keep it positive. Then I'll add the 4. Okay, -4 plus 4 is 0 equals 12x. Now don't stop here, okay? Students tend to stop here, and I'm going to write a little skull and crossbone. I expect you to have this down. The answer is not no solution. So be careful. You can divide by 12, and you can divide by 12. So the trap is it's not no solution in this case. But 0 divided by 12, you can type that in your calculator, is just 0. So 0 is the x value. All right, we found it. Now you can just substitute back in. So draw yourself a little arrow if you have to. We know y is equal to -8 times 0 minus 4. That would cancel, so y equals -4. So the coordinates are 0, -4. But I'll see a lot of students, they get to this point and they stop or they panic. So there are examples of no solutions, but this is not one of them. So if you're going to divide by a number, you can do that. It's just 0. So don't stop there. I want to see your skulls. Number 4 is very similar. I'm actually going to leave that one for you guys to solve. So pause it here, and in the little check after this, you can type in what you get. How about that? So try that one out in time. You can either do that now or you can watch the next problem. And in 5, here's where it gets a little trickier. So neither of them are solved for, okay? What you can now do is you can pick. So pick a variable to solve for. Pick a variable with a coefficient of 1 to solve for. Now what I mean by that is you want to pick this 1x, okay? You could also pick the y, but that's what you're looking for, is an x or a y that's all by itself. So what we can do with that is we can say, well, if I add y to the other side, then I have x is equal to y plus 3. So I'm using this second equation, and then I'm going to substitute x, which is the y plus 3, and you can also substitute into the x of the other equation. I know we've just done y to this point, but 2 is just to substitute. So 8 times y plus 3 minus 7y equals 18. We're going to distribute both things. And from there, combine your like terms. 8 y minus 7 is just y, so sorry about that. It's just 1y plus 24 equals 18. Minus 24, minus 24. 18 minus 24 is negative 6. And now with that, so we have y first, we're just going to substitute in to find x. So x then is negative 6 plus 3 or negative 3. So our answer is negative 3 comma negative 6. Remember, it's always x comma y. So those ones involve a little bit extra solving to do. Pick a variable to solve for. Always pick something like x, that's a positive 1, or y, that's a positive 1. That's what you want to solve for. Okay, let's do one more here. So number 6. You can solve for a variable first. So let's solve for this x here. Is going to be nice and easy. So how do we do that? We want to get it by itself. So we're going to add the 7y to the other side. So negative 19 plus 7y is the same thing as x. From there, substitute. We're substituting for x. So I'm going to put that in for x. Now here's another little trick. Be careful because of that negative. So it's negative the quantity negative 19. There's another trap. Be careful with that negative. I'd like to see these skulls. Careful. Okay. 19 plus 7y minus 6y equals negative 20. All this stuff is coming from, so here's the negative. Here's the negative 6y. And the negative 20. So that's where everything's from. Now distribute the negative, so it's like a negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 19 is positive 19. Negative 1 times negative 7 is, or times positive 7 is negative 7y. Minus 6y equals negative 20. This is going to be negative 13. I'm going to subtract 19 from each side, which is negative 39, and divide, which gives me y is equal to 3. So y is 3. We're not done yet. You got to find x. We're so close. So just substitute it back on in, and that just means negative 19 plus 7y is equal to, whoops, not 7y, 7 times 3 is equal to x, negative 19 plus 21. And then that means 2 is equal to x. So 2 comma 3, there's your answer. All right, so substitution method. A new thing for you. Hopefully a lot of it's review, but please have these examples. Also, go back, try out number 4. That's the one I want you to submit, and it'll be in the question that follows. So submit number 4 and do your best. And that's all, guys. Great job.